Alright, this is part 5 of the Stranding Commentary. We start off with a dream sequence, but this one's very short and doesn't have Amelie in the red dress. Really, what's happening is that Sam is thinking about Fragile, and that's why when he looks at his hands, he's like, oh my god, my hands are old, like Fragile's. And he wakes up like it's from, a nightmare. But that dream implies that his subconscious is thinking about Fragile, and then when he looks over, she's in the shower. So at this point, um, we're on part 5 of the series, but we're not technically at the halfway mark as far as hours are concerned. But it's smooth sailing from here on out. Like no more problems like we had in episode 4. So I feel like from here on out, I actually like all the action sequences, and from here on out, the episodes all have beginning, middles, and ends on a way on a level that I actually think is good and satisfying. And also from here on out, we go back to that whole every episode has like some melancholy stuff and then some horror in it as well.
Sorry, didn't mean to startle you.
So,
You were sleeping when I dropped by.
making part 4 was like
Thanks for
pulling
the
teeth,
salad.
but making part 5 was, much simpler. Now, this is going to be,
Look, I gotta ask.
this is where
Been hearing
I
things
start seriously cutting things out and skipping stuff. So,
She's in bed with terrorists. Don't
this
trust
part
her.
of the game,
She's just
is
another
probably a
dumbass who
good
fucked me
5
over.
hours or 6 hours of
She's a goddamn
gameplay,
hero,
once
that
again
woman.
condensed to, about half an hour, maybe a little longer. And
Tell
I
me
ended
something.
up cutting out. This would be the part of the game that would actually have the mama stuff in it. So,
Wayne and I dad
the
got
mama
divorced.
subplot
We
is
were so
there's this
dysfunctional.
chick that
The glue that
has a
held it all
baby,
together.
but it's like a
We were
ghost
the
baby,
nation.
and then she
A
asks
symbol
you
of
to
freedom and
like
hope.
get rid of the ghost baby,
We could bring
and
it
then
all
when you get
back
rid of the
if we
ghost
kept on
baby,
making deliveries
she
and
like
connecting
drops
people.
dead, and then you carry her dead body to her twin sister, and then her twin
I was
sister's
restless
like,
when he
we're
died.
one.
That's
And
when
the
I knew.
music's kind of cheesy. And so I just cut all that out because I
Together,
was
we
like,
learned languages
maybe
and
some
received
people
each
find
other.
this touching, but I just found it cringe
Back then, we had
inducing.
a
So I
monopoly
completely
just to
cut
beer. We
Mama's
both stood to gain the love and
character arc
attention.
completely out of the series. And because Mama has a
Because we
twin
stood together.
sister, at the end of the game,
But
when you
then,
see
a year
her,
ago,
it all makes sense and works,
when there was
Like
the
it doesn't
massive
actually
garbage
matter
filling up the
that I
pool,
cut it out because she's there at the beginning when the president dies,
fuckers
and she's
hijacked
also there at the
horses.
end. Spoilers,
Somehow they
or
got
at least
all
her
the
twin
guards
sister's
to
there
wear
at the end.
costumes and
So
use
anyway,
torches
I
to
cut all
catch
that stuff
thieves.
out.
And just like that, we're delivering guns and
Now
pharmacies to
with
kids in
this episode is going to
didn't even
be a
know.
lot about Fragile,
We're
Sam,
just cogs in a
Higgs,
terrorist
and
machine.
then it's also going to really seriously
He's
introduce
working hard though.
Cliff as a major
And on
character.
top of that,
And
with
that's
all
what I
his
mean. Where
hands
I'm
on
like,
the
well,
milk
at this
police
point, it's
that I
smooth
ended up
sailing.
carrying right
I'm
into
no
New York
longer.
City.
There is no filler
Yeah,
in this episode.
it was me.
I'm not. I don't need to stretch anything out. I actually have the opposite problem of I have to cram too much stuff in, which is a nice problem to have.
Could have been
So this
different if I
episode
wasn't so fucking
is
blind.
almost 40 minutes long,
Tried to
or
get
maybe it
everything I
even is
covered
40
to stop
minutes long.
weapons,
But this
but it
episode's
was
basically
fine.
40 minutes long,
I
and the
tried to
last
keep him
episode was like a
quiet.
struggle, to even get it to like
And Higgs was
the
one
mid
step ahead.
20s. And this
We took
episode
his
is
pen
going to
before she
end
admits.
with a pretty
Some
hardcore
names,
action sequence.
they don't
So, unlike the structure of episode 4, where, like,
ever
it
tell
has
me what
kind of a
happened.
decent beginning,
The
but an
religious.
anticlimactic boss fight, this one has nothing about it's anticlimactic. And,
So there you have it.
you know, I feel like this is the episode where you really,
Everything's
really
changed.
start to like Fragile,
Except
because
for
she
all the
becomes a
lies.
very relatable character who is sympathetic.
I don't give a damn about bridges or
And,
putting America back together.
yeah. This is where she's basically
But I
telling
know
you how
about
she
what
got
it is
completely
to
screwed
send
over in
terrorists like
life,
myself
where
to
she's
spread
like, well,
shit all over.
my father got horribly, he died,
That's why I came
and
to
then,
you.
Higgs basically screwed her over and lied to her, and it cost her her reputation,
So,
and she got
just for now,
blamed for a nuke going off in a city, and really it was Higgs and the
I'll do the
terrorists,
duties.
but, like, the people kind of 50-50 blamed her. Some of them blamed her, some of them didn't blame her, but the point was she paid
I'll
a heavy
answer to
price.
your call.
And And so, she's starting to become a sympathetic character. You're starting to realize that she's not actually a bad person, which up until this point, it's kind of up in the air, if she's like a pseudo-terrorist or not. Ooh, what cliff scene is it going to be? I have no idea what cliff scene it's going to be. I know it's going to be a cliff scene, but I don't know which cliff scene. Because once again, I had too many cliff scenes to put in. Yeah, dude, that's good. That's a good scene to put in. You can tell it's stressful. We don't have the context yet, but we can tell it's stressful.
Unable to process order. Unable to process order. Please stand by until the problem can be
Yeah,
rectified.
so, I definitely edited some stuff out to get to this part.
Sorry about that. The system seems to be on the fritz. One of the packages
This
was a
is
process
the
property
villain
about
Higgs
less than
undercover. That is a bomb in a suitcase, but we don't know that yet.
himself.
But that's what's going on here.
One double
Spoilers.
package with the system
Don't watch
failed
this
and
if you haven't actually watched my regular series or played the game. But,
Anywho, really sorry for the hold up.
this is Higgs basically
Careful.
screwing Sam over.
Sorry.
And we just got a story from Fragile where Fragile was like, well, Higgs screwed me over, and this is now Higgs trying to screw Sam over. But Sam doesn't recognize that it's Higgs right away, but he knows something's kind of weird about that guy. Oh, I don't remember there being a bike in this episode. So let's see how I did that. This is probably a no music montage. I remember all the musical montages very well, so I'm like, this is not going to be a music montage, so this is just going to be a bike scene. So I imagine because it's not a music montage, this bike scene is going to be like a minute-ish, and then we're going to go to whatever the next plot point is. Yeah, so we're doing a hard cut montage. Yeah, no cross dissolves, but it's edited in a way to where, yeah, it's obvious that, he's traveling a great distance. Oh, something that comes up in the story is the mules. Mules are like a different faction. But I kind of never actually showed the mule. I mean, I show the mules in episode 9, but I never really explained them plot-wise, because I was like, they're not that important to the main plot. The main plot is like the Death Stranding, the monsters, and, Sam's major relationship. So, let's see. Yeah, I writes the bike down. So that was about a minute, maybe a minute and a half.
Okay.
Now, when you're playing the game, you can completely screw up and blow up a city, but I didn't do that because I already knew how to play this. So I basically went to not where I was supposed to deliver the package and blow up the city, and instead went to a different place, took a nap. I knew that if I took a nap, I would get this dream sequence. And in this dream sequence, Sam basically figures out, like, wait a minute, that's the guy from the previous episode. That's the guy from that anticlimactic boss fight in the last episode, so... Yeah, that's pretty good. Initially I thought there was a problem when it was blurry, and then I was like, oh wait, that's how the game does it, where it goes from blurry to focused in. Basically a narrow angle lens.
Son of a bitch, it was him.
What are you talking about?
The package I picked up from you, the one from Lake Knot.
Hold on. I wasn't expecting any package.
He said Fragile herself.
Yeah, so this is good. The tension is starting to ratchet up. We're starting to get like a mystery that we're solving.
The point is, it was Higgs.
They're working together, the music's kicking in, people are running, like, we're starting to get to, like, some drama. That's what I mean when I'm like, yeah, these episodes were a lot smoother to make. I had a much easier time making this episode than the last one. Now, what's gonna happen is, she's gonna open this case up, it's gonna be a nuclear bomb, and she basically tells you you gotta run and throw it in the tar pits. Now what the game does is the game basically gives you a 20-minute timer, and it gives you a 20-minute timer until you get rid of the bomb, and then it gives you a cutscene. So what I did is I basically delivered the bomb, got the cutscene, and then I went back and refilmed it without the bomb, and I just basically threw a random case that was the same size as this bomb case into the, so basically I had to do it twice is what I'm saying, because I didn't want the timer. So you'll notice that everyone else's Death Stranding video, when they throw this bomb into the tar pit, you're going to have a timer in the corner, and in my version you do not have a timer in the corner. But it's basically because, you know, I basically got rid of the bomb, captured the cutscene, then went back up the hill and filmed me running down the hill again and throwing the bomb in again. And that's how I was able to achieve that sequence without having a heads-up display. And this is Cliff getting blitzed. Oh, in case you didn't know as the audience, this is a baby in the unit looking at Cliff this whole time. I'm like, I assume that's like self-evident that this is like the baby's POV, but in hindsight, it's not actually explained until like part 10 that this is the baby's POV. Also, that bottle of whiskey seems to have like a whale on it, because Kojima has a thing about whales and Moby Dick. Kojima's a huge Moby Dick fan. This is pretty melancholy. It's kind of hard to know what he's saying without subtitles, but he's basically talking to his brain dead wife about how, like, you know, he thought he could keep everyone safe, and he's so wrong and dumb, and you know what's wrong with him. He's being pretty self-deprecating right now because he's at a low point. Yeah, he's like, "You're all I got, baby." Yeah. Yeah, this character becomes so sympathetic as we progress. Even though he's involved in a lot of horrendous action sequences that are, you know, technically scary and terrible. So keep in mind that I've already gotten rid of the bomb at this point, and then this is me basically refilming it as though I have the bomb. And I'm holding a case in my hand, and I'm going to throw a random case. This is not the bomb, it's just a random case. And then we cut to that, and hey, it's the bomb. But yeah, that's how I did that without having, you know, the timer. So yeah, threw the nuke in the tar pit. Nuke goes off. There's going to be a conversation with Fragile. Technically, there's going to be quite a bit of stuff going on right here, where there's going to be a conversation with Fragile, and then we're going to get a flashback with Fragile, and then we're going to get a music montage,
You saved the city and everyone.
and then we're going to get a crazy action scene,
Maybe there's no
and
way
then the
he
episode's
saved
going to be
them,
over. So I feel like this episode was, you know, dramatically better paced than the last episode. And I feel like, you know, all the episodes from here on out, I don't know. This like at this point, all the episodes are going to be pretty much jam-packed with like with juicy stuff. Like at this point, every episode's going to have crazy action scenes and like pretty dramatic moments. There will be no more just like filler shower scenes. If there's a shower scene in one of these future episodes, that shower scene's going to mean something. Like it's going to be an emotional shower scene that's plot relevant. Which you're like, what do you mean a plot relevant shower scene? It's like, oh, you'll see. By the way, I cut out the shower scene with him and Deadman. You're gonna be like, wait, what is he talking about?
By the time I realized
But yeah, I cut
what
that
was
out.
planning,
That's not on my version.
Nuke was already at the city gates. I followed the delivery truck and somehow managed to carry
Yeah,
the
dude, the
bomb
first time I saw this sequence, this was just brutal.
But he
This was a
had been on
brutal
his own.
sequence to watch. Super hardcore.
Caught me red-handed outside the gates. Nuke still cradled in my arms like a child.
Alright, I gotta make sure I keep talking. I can't just sit here silently and watch this scene, but I really want to. I'd love to just silently
So,
sit here and watch
as
this scene.
punishment, he strips me down to nothing,
But
and then he makes it rain.
basically in part one, Fragile removes her glove and she's got an old lady hand, and she's like, oh, I got soaked from head to toe. and we're gonna basically watch that happen now. And you didn't. It's funny because when she mentions it, you just think that like I don't know, bad planning. You don't realize it's so overtly nefarious as what's about to happen. This scene also does such a good job making you hate Higgs. Like, I remember the first time I played this game, after this scene, I was like, I cannot wait to kill Higgs or deal with Higgs. Because, like, man, this Death Stranding world has enough problems. You don't need humans to be like nihilist maniacs, just making it worse. And yeah, that's the philosophy of Higgs. Extreme nihilism. What's the point? Burn it all down. End it now. And yeah, he basically gives her the ultimatum of like, hey, you can teleport away right now, or you can run in the rain and throw this bomb in the tar pit. Your choice, but you can't do both.
You see, the truth is, I don't much care for my face.
All right, I gotta keep.
That's why I hide
What
it.
else is on my mind?
But
So Higgs is about nihilism. So then, what would Fragile's philosophy be? Stoicism. Yeah, actually, that's accurate. Okay, yeah, that's accurate. So Higgs is a nihilist, and Fragile is a stoicist, by far.
don't worry, I won't mess it up. See, I want your face to be a kind of testament.
Yeah, man, this is so cruel. And especially at this point in the story, because we have established how like awful Timefall is.
Because I found
So this
someone.
entire cutscene, the first time you watch it, you're like, "Oh my God, are we really gonna? Is this really happening?" And you kind of know it's gonna happen because you've already seen her hand wrinkly. And so I guess a lot of the tension has to do with like, are we gonna watch this happen? And the answer is yes. We're gonna watch this happen with like sad music in brutal slow motion. Like
You'll always
that special way of that only Hideo Kojima can do.
and that pretty face of yours will always be remembered as the face of a terrorist.
And yeah, we're gonna get a wonderful use of slow motion coming up, and the music's fantastic, and
They can slap a sticker on
yeah,
you.
this is a great scene.
Oh,
It was like what a weird game where someone running in the rain is like such a tense experience. Like it's horrifying.
Quite that easy.
And I feel like that is the magic of Kojima, where like we're just gonna watch some lady run through the rain, and yet it's like this dreadful, horrendous experience that we're all like, oh my God, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it.
I'll take the damage.
Save yourself, just teleport away.
That easy.
This city gets blown up anyway too, so this ends up being like a wasted gesture for her. Um, so yeah, just brutal.
Because I'm fragile, but I'm not that fragile.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, don't do it. I love that. I love this. There's no way to stop this from happening, and I'm like, don't do it, don't do it. No, she did it. It's terrible. This is terrible. Yeah, and it's like immediately terrible. Even now, if she like turned around, it's like, dude, there's a lot of damage already. You're like those liver spots that formed instantly are real bad. Yeah. So at the very least, this scene accomplishes so many things at once if you think about it, because it makes Fragile uh, super. You get like incredible sympathy and empathy for Fragile, and then you also get like an extreme hatred of Higgs. And this is like what is this, like a 3 to 4 minute scene? So in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, this scene accomplishes quite a lot and gets like quite an emotional response.
Well, there it is. You are a goddamn hero.
Yeah, and at this point, after hearing the story, Sam is like complimentary, and nice, which Sam has not been complimentary or nice this entire
This
game.
belongs to you.
And so I just feel like it's really obvious they like each other at this
I
point
know
in the
who you are,
game, to
Sam.
be perfectly honest, because Sam
That choice I
is
made,
literally dreaming about her, sort of, when he has
for
like
the
the old
years.
lady hand dream earlier in this episode. And then after this, he's calling
I
like
had to
her
use
a
her
hero and saying that
more
she
than
did the
to
right
save
thing.
myself.
And she obviously
Instead,
feels like she didn't
you
do the right
saved the
thing
city.
because she has regrets. She's like, well,
Maybe
if
not
I didn't,
because we
she's like,
don't
if I could
hope.
go back and not do it, I would go
Well,
back and not
now
do it.
there's only one person left for me to save.
But that's
And
relatable
one day
too.
he'd regret he ever crossed me.
By killing him?
Can't. He's way more powerful now than
But
he was
yeah,
before.
this is where she asks Sam, like, Sam, you could help me kill Higgs.
But you could take him. You could. But promise me. Promise me you'll leave him alive.
Alright, so after that incredibly hardcore cutscene that is emotionally heavy, we're about to go into a musical montage. And
I want to know why he was
with this musical montage, this is the only musical montage I did in the entire series where Sam
Do you
is
want
like daydreaming. And that will make sense when the sequence actually gets going. But most of the musical montage sequences are either in real time or they're montages of him traveling. And, they're rather literal and linear. Whereas this one is, he's traveling, but he's also got so much stuff on his mind right now.
Sam, don't forget about the supply run to South Knot City.
In the middle of a dull-lit, weightless street.
Yeah, so now we're in the sequence, and based on the lyrics, that's when he's gonna start daydreaming, actually. And yeah, definitely, this is definitely one of my more favorite. This is a weird montage because I feel like visually it's not that stunning because you're walking around, kind of a weird area. You got a cross dissolve. That's never a good sign. If you can't resolve it, dissolve it.
But still I stand here on my own, with nothing left to lose.
But I do really like this song. And yeah, somewhere in the very near future, he's gonna start daydreaming, and we're gonna start cutting back to like previous moments in the story. But I definitely haven't seen this in a while, so I'm wondering where it comes in. Like, where does that come in from? God, that background's beautiful. I really like those rainbows.
Because I never said no,
South Knot City.
and I'm emotionally impaired.
Oh, that's where it is.
When I look at you,
Yeah, that came out nice. Like, that came out nice. I didn't even talk over it. I was like, I'll just watch this for like the whatever, 15 seconds.
keep these bones inside my skin.
Yeah, so that whole thing was to imply that, like, he's thinking about this stuff.
But my body's in the hole, my
And technically, what he's thinking about is actually, like, relevant to the lyrics that are happening in this song, which is I think it's a nice touch.
as I struggle to maintain my position. The oil's dried from this heart of
But yeah, This episode, yeah, it's good. This episode's a lot better than episode 4.
And I wonder if I said
Yeah, I'm back to liking stuff again. Like,
without you.
yeah, see, I don't remember going back to this a second time, so that's pretty good. It's probably the only. Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's not a bad sequence. So yeah, that was the entire song. That's a long song too, actually. I think that song is like over 5 minutes long. But yeah, I had like, yeah, this episode I did not have the problems I had with the last one, because this episode actually has 11 and a half minutes to go, and we're at 26 minutes. Now keep in mind, episode 4 was like 27 minutes, and I felt like, man, I don't even know how to end this thing, and like, it just, there's filler at the end. Whereas, you know, in this episode, I have like almost the opposite problem. With this episode, at this point, I was like, well, how do I end this episode? Like, do I have him just like go down the elevator and then fade to black? And and here's the thing: if I had ended the episode right then and there, then that means that the very next episode would start at this point. And I just wasn't gonna do that. I wasn't gonna have the next episode start at this point because this is about to be a crazy action sequence. And pacing out the rest of the miniseries, like I like, just trust me, there would have been too much action in one of these episodes had I not slammed this one into this one. So this action scene, had it not gone into episode 5, it would have had to go into episode 6, but there's already a crazy action scene in episode 6, and then there's a crazy action scene in 7. There's some, like, basically every episode from here on out has a crazy action scene, or more than one. So, like, I had to end this episode with this sequence, otherwise it was just gonna really, really screw up other episodes down the road. So yeah, I mean, technically I could have ended the episode right then and there, and then started the next one at this point, but yeah, for pacing reasons, it's like, now we're going for broke. This is the first of the 3 cliff boss fights. And so when you realize that we're on episode 5, and there's only 10 episodes, and there's 3 cliff boss fights, and there isn't a cliff boss fight in episode 10, because that gets resolved earlier than this, you start realizing that, like, yeah, this sequence had to go in this episode. Because if it didn't, because otherwise there might have been 2 cliff of these boss fights in a single episode, and that would just be crazy or madness, so, like, couldn't have that. So this episode is almost 40 minutes long, but, I mean, there's stuff going on. I feel like it's really interesting. We hit that rule of horror and melancholy, which I'm super pleased with. That's kind of what I wanted for every episode. Dude, those graphics, man. I feel like, is this the best looking game ever? I kind of feel like it is, to be perfectly honest. Like, I can't think of a game with better graphics than this, and especially with stuff like that. It's definitely outrageous. And yeah, that crucifix on his stomach means something. I wonder, like, I don't really want to get into super spoilers. But then I do feel like anyone that's watching this is gonna have this crap spoiled anyway. This is not the way to watch Death Stranding, by the way. You should not be watching these commentary episodes first. So, there was a learning curve with filming this sequence, because once again, there was HUD everywhere. Keep in mind, whenever you get shot, the HUD kicks in. Whenever the baby cries, the HUD kicks in. You know, when your shoes wear down, the HUD kicks in. So, most of this is editing around the HUD. That reverse shot, like the shot reverse shot, was kind of my trick for how to deal with like any of these boss fights or times the HUD would show up. It's like stand perfectly still, wait for the HUD to go away, get the reverse shot, capture that for a few seconds, okay, then go back to the original shot, now you can proceed. But I want to say that I don't have any HUD in this sequence, but dude, it was a nightmare. Like, I definitely filmed this for forever to not have any HUD. What's funny is that I haven't seen this in what feels like an eternity, and I feel like, yeah, this looks pretty good. Because of these sequences, the one I remember vividly is the Vietnam one, because it's like the last one I did. I want to say the Vietnam one was like episode 9? I want to say, yeah, it was episode 9. So the Vietnam sequence is in episode 9, this is the World War I sequence. But I kind of don't remember it. So this definitely looks pretty good. I'm actually surprised at how good this looks. Because I thought the Vietnam one is the best looking one by far, but then I'm like, this one doesn't look bad, actually. But who knows, maybe I didn't like it because like the gunfighting sequence, because like I know this gunfighting is going to be tricky. But yeah, when you get shot, the heads-up display kicks in. When you heal yourself, the heads-up display kicks in. When you heal yourself, you have to deploy a blood bag, and then when the blood bag empties in real time, it'll be like, the blood bag's empty, and so like that would ruin a shot. So like there's tons of things getting in the way of, you know, getting this to look clean. I'm actually really surprised at how clean this looks. Yeah, man, definitely a Salvador Dali surrealist nightmare. This feels like Salvador Dali mixed with Clive Barker. Like, definitely pretty crazy art style. What's gonna be crazy is that, like, I think what really blows my mind about Death Stranding is it's visually stunning. It's definitely thought-provoking, and watching this is part 5, and because I know where this is going, like, I am just so blown away by where this story ends up. And spoilers, this game has a happy ending, which seems impossible, right? Like it seems so impossible that this game is gonna have a happy ending, or this story is gonna have a happy ending. But this story has a happy ending. Go figure, you know? Like it seems, especially when you watch episode 1, you're like, dude, there's no way this is gonna have a happy ending. And now that we're like, you know, we're reaching, you know, like we haven't even really technically reached the midpoint of the series. I know it's episode 5, so it seems like the midpoint, but I'm doing it on time. So I'm like, by the time this episode's over, we're gonna be at 2.5 hours, and because I know this series is pushing almost 6 hours, I just kind of know that like technically we're not at the halfway point yet, but it does blow my mind that all of this shenanigans is going to eventually make sense and be tied together in a nice tight little bow, and then also have a happy ending, you know. Like I don't think I would have liked this game as much had it not had like an actual happy ending. It's pretty crazy. I can't wait to actually get to part 10 and discuss it personally. Like I cannot wait to get to part 10 and discuss it. Dude, this looks pretty good. Like I'm very pleased with this. I haven't seen this in forever, and I'm like, this looks pretty good. Like I can't believe there's no HUD. I can't believe I was able to edit the HUD out. Like once again, go Google Death Stranding World War One sequence, and then you'll see like how crazy this version looks. You'll be like, oh my goodness, dude, how'd you do this? Like even I am like, I don't, you know, I just did this with time and hard work. And yeah, it might not look impressive until you watch someone else's Death Stranding. Yeah, after I'm done doing this commentary, I literally am gonna go like YouTube that. I'm gonna YouTube Death Stranding World War One scene, and then I'm gonna watch it, and I just feel like, dude, there's gonna be HUD everywhere. There's gonna be like ammo counters and blood packs, and the baby's freaking out, and you need to heal yourself, and just all sorts of shenanigans. again, I feel like the camera has only clipped like twice in this entire sequence, which I'm like, that's pretty good. In a perfect world, there'd be no clipping, but I feel like, dude, I've only noticed the camera clipping like once or twice. Hmm. You know, that's exactly how the game does it, but if I could go back, I'd probably try to fix that. I think if I could go back, I wouldn't want the fade to black, and I wouldn't want the volume to die the way it does. But oh well, that's not, I have nothing to do with that. Yeah, I'm just watching this. Yeah. Yeah, dude, this is a good episode. Yeah, the other episodes are good too, but I'm like, this is a good episode. Dude, you know, to be honest, I'm like, I really like episode 6, and I really like 7, 8, 9, and 10. I think the only episode I don't like is episode 4, and it's not that I don't like it, but I mean, if you watch that commentary, I'm like, that's the only commentary where I'm not feeling it, where I'm like, this episode. And yeah, this episode's about to be over. We're at the last minute, so we're gonna wrap this episode up, and then this episode's done. But
Yeah.
yeah. So this episode had a beginning,
Where am
a
I?
middle, and an end, and
What happened to me?
it had some action, and it had, you know, some melancholy, sad stuff, and it had some emotional stuff. So I mean, to me, this is a good episode. It's also why I liked episode 3.
I got caught
But
in a storm and
yeah,
was
dude,
on
we're
one side.
we are all aboard the crazy train until this story wraps up. Which I did say in episode 4, where I was like, you know, from here on out, it's gonna start getting insane, and I just feel like, yeah, this is a taste, because I'm like, we got
Tried taking my
way more
name.
stuff coming up, way
No
more
one could
stuff
vouch
coming
for me.
up. But yeah, dude, that World War One scene actually came out pretty nice. I'm shocked. I'm not shocked, but I'm like, yeah, that came out a
Yeah,
lot better than I
because
remember it coming out, actually.
for hours it felt like.
Anywho, hopefully I see some of you guys for part